All right, welcome everybody to the Superdome in Louisiana for the Sugar Bowl. Tonight we have the undefeated Georgetown Hoyas playing as the 11-1 Michigan Wolverines. Michigan walks into this game as a 10-point favorite. Can we get some score predictions in the chat? Both teams, of course, led by prolific quarterbacks: Aaron Vaughn for Georgetown and Will Duncan for Michigan. Secret thinks Michigan wins in a blowout. So does Circle, and JT thinks it'll be a close UMich win. Chat thinks Michigan is going to walk away with this one. Let's see what really happens. Both teams are sending their captains to midfield. Georgetown, as the worst seed, is the de facto away team. They call the toss. They say tails, it is tails, and they elect to defer. Michigan will be starting with the football. Ty Smith comes on to kick off for Michigan, or to kick for Georgetown. Andy Sims, the returner. Smith's kickoff goes right to the 0. Andy Sims, not his best return. He returns it for 17 yards. And here comes the Wolverine offense. First down, Duncan hands it up the middle to Jim Austin. He gets 7. Second and 3. It's an outside run to Lucifer Pierce. Pierce easily gets the first, makes the guy miss before he's tackled for a gain of 9. Next play, Duncan backs pass, looking for Donald Sullivan on a slant route. He gets it. And Sullivan gets the first, and there are flags as he was tackled. Looks like his face mask might have got grabbed. And it was. Andrew Cooper dinked for the penalty. Michigan already into Georgetown territory. Next play, Will Duncan looking on a corner off for Greg Smith on the sideline. He's open. He grabs it. Gain of 15. Next play, Duncan back to pass. The coverage much better from Georgetown. Duncan forced to scramble, and he just throws this one away. Second and 10. They hand it off up the middle. Jim Austin. And this is beautifully blocked. Austin gets the first down. Gain of 10. Michigan now at the Georgetown 16. Next play, they hand it up the middle again. This time it's Lucifer Pierce, and he is brought down in the backfield. Loss of 3. Second and 13, they try the same thing again. Run up the middle, Lucifer Pierce, and this one was blocked much better. It's a gain of 9. This brings up third and 4. Let's see what they elect to do. Duncan, handoff. Nope, play action. Excuse me, but Duncan is sacked right after the fake handoff. Ben Stewart was in the backfield. They get a stop. Ross Dixon coming on to attempt what would be a 31-yard field goal. His kick is up, and it is good. Michigan strikes first. They lead 3-0. 9 minutes left in the first quarter. Dixon stays on to kick off, and it is out the back of the end zone for a touchback. Here comes Aaron Vaughn and the electric Georgetown offense. First down, they hands it up the middle to Bud Simmons, but he is brought down in the backfield, loss of 2. Second down, Vaughn back to pass, looking on the sideline for Jaden Norman. He gets it. He is wide open. He runs for a bit more before the safety finally pushes him out. Gain of 21. Next play, Vaughn back to pass, looking up the middle for Connor Allen. He gets it, tackled just short of the first down. Gain of 9. The Hoyas cross midfield. Next play, it's an outside run. Bud Simmons, and he has speed. He gets past the linebacker before he's finally tackled by one of the corners. Gain of 11. Next play, they hand it up the middle. Jaden Norman's a nice gain of 5. And Coach Minute Rice seems he wants to plan out the rest of this drive. He uses his first timeout of the half. 5 minutes 54 left in the first quarter. Next play, they hand it up the middle to Jaden Norman again. He only gets 1 yard. 3rd and 4 on the Wolverine 30. Seems Michigan is expecting pass. They only rush 3, and it's a draw, and Norman takes it. Michigan was not ready for a run. He easily gets the first. He scampers ahead for a bit more, gets just into the Michigan red zone before he is tackled after a gain of 11. Next play, Vaughn, play action. Terry Adams is wide open. He beat his man in the end zone. He catches it. Touchdown, Georgetown. Great quick drive there by the Hoyas. Ty Smith on to attempt the extra point. His kick is up, and it dings off the upright. It misses. Smith pushed it way to the right. Crazy. It is 6-3, the Georgetown lead. 4 minutes 26 left in the first quarter. Smith stays on to kick off, and he wishes he had this kickoff back. He only gets it to the 10. Andy Sims, the returner for Michigan, he has a nice 21-yard return. Michigan will be starting on their own 31. Much better field position than last time for the Wolverines. First down, Duncan hands out up the middle to Pierce. He gets 3. Second down, Duncan back to pass, looking for Jim Austin up the seam. He catches it. He beat the linebacker. Safety finally brings him down after a big gain, 25 yards. They are now in the Hoya 41. Next play, Duncan hands it off to Lucifer Pierce. He gets 7. That was well blocked. Next play, Duncan looks for Greg Smith on a screen. Smith gets the first down. Not much more, gain of 5. Next play, Duncan back to pass, looking deep for Eric McCauley. And that was a beautiful throw. Tight window, but it is caught. Gain of 20. Michigan already on the Georgetown 9. Next play, Duncan hands it off to Austin, but Austin brought down almost right away. Loss of 4. Second and goal at the 13. This next play will be the last of the first quarter. And Duncan keeps it on an option route. Georgetown did not accept Duncan to scramble. He doesn't do it often. And he is tackled just short of the goal line. Gain of 11. And as we enter the second quarter, Georgetown currently leads 6-3, but Michigan is knocking on the door. Third and goal at the 2. First down, they hand it up the middle to Lucifer Pierce, and he easily gets in. Touchdown, Michigan. They take the lead back. 6-9 the score right now. Ross Dixon's extra point is up and good. 10-6 the score. Dixon kicks it off for a touchback. Georgetown will be starting on their own 25. On first down, they elect to hand it off to Bud Simmons. He only gets 1 yard. Second and 9, Vaughn back to pass, looking for Devin Lamb. This one batted down, incomplete. Third and 9. Next play, it's an end around. Devin Lamb gets it. But Michigan was somewhat ready for the trick play. Lamb is able to get to the sideline, but he is brought out of bounds just short of the first down, gain of 7. Fourth and 2 on their own 33. Georgetown elects to punt. Greg Adams, the punter for Georgetown. And this punt went nowhere. The brush was getting to the punter. It might have actually been tipped. This is a 26-yard return. This play somewhat turns into chaos. Colin Mitchell does return it for Michigan, and he is able to return this 19 yards before he is finally brought down. And hold on, there are also flags. It's going to be a holding on Rodney Stewart, which is accepted. This is bringing that all the way back. Michigan will be starting this on their own 32. Georgetown gets saved. Duncan, first down, looking up the middle for Greg Smith. He gets it, first down, gain of 11. Next play, they hand it off outside for Jim Austin. He tries to make something happen in the backfield, but he is brought down for a loss of 3. Second and 13, Duncan on the play action, looking for Greg Smith. Past the first down marker, and he gets it. Tackled almost immediately after, but a gain of 16. Next play, they hand it off up the middle for Jim Austin. This one well blocked. He gets 8. Second and 2. Duncan, back to pass, has all the time in the world. Looking deep in the end zone for Eric McCauley, who is in single coverage. This throw is beautiful. McCauley catches it. There wasn't much room there, but Duncan makes a beautiful throw. Touchdown, Michigan. The extra point from Ross Dixon is up and good. This game now 17-6. 11 minutes 33 left in the second quarter. And Dixon kicks off for another touchback. On their own 25, Aaron Vaughn hands it off up the middle to Bud Simmons, but he is stuffed, gain of zip. Next play, Georgetown back to the run game. They run it this time outside with Jaden Norman, but he is brought down by a linebacker also at the line of scrimmage. 3rd and 10. Let's see. Looks like Vaughn passing. No, excuse me. Draw. Terry Adams gets it. And Michigan was somewhat ready for the draw. They bring him down after a gain of 6. 4th and 4. Greg Adams back on to punt. And this is, a much better punt than last time. Looks like this one was untouched. 45 yards, but Colin Mitchell, he wants to return this. He is an electric returner. He makes one guy miss where he's finally brought down after a gain of 16. Michigan going to start this drive on their own 40. First down, Duncan back to pass, looking for Jim Austin, who's wide open, but the pass sails over his head. 2nd and 10. It's a screen pass to loose for Pierce, who is able to get 6 before he is brought down. 3rd and 4. Duncan, it's another screen, this time a whiteout screen to Jim Austin, and it's well blocked. Austin gets the first before he is pushed out, gain of 6. Michigan crosses midfield. They hand it up the middle for loose for Pierce. He gets 3. 2nd and 7. Duncan looking for Jim Austin for the first down, and he gets it. Wide open, gain of 13. Michigan is driving again. First down, they hand it up the middle to Edie Valdo, who is brought down at the line of scrimmage, gain of nothing. And there is a Wolverine uniform down. That is Jalen Hulick of Michigan. You hate to see that. 2nd down, they hand it off to Edie Valdo again, but he is stuffed again, only a gain of 1. 3rd and 9 coming up. Duncan back to pass. This one well covered by Georgetown. Duncan tries to scramble, but he is brought down at the line of scrimmage. 4th and 9 at the Hoya 31. And this is a decision that the fans are booing the punt unit coming out from Michigan. This would have been a 48-yard attempt. Coach JT says that he thinks this is the right decision. He does not have faith in the kicker. Corey Newman, the punter, and this is a touchback. Georgetown will be starting on their own 20. Effectively 11 yards moved there. First down, Georgetown hands up the middle to Jaden Norman. He gets 5. 2nd and 5. Vaughn keeps himself on a design QB run. He doesn't get anything. 3rd and 5. Vaughn pitch outside to Jaden Norman. Michigan did not expect a run there. Norman easily gets the first gain of 8. Next play, they hand it up the middle again. Jaden Norman, he gets 7. 2nd and 3. This next play will be the last for the 2-minute warning. They hand it up the middle to Bud Simmons, who loses a yard. Seems like Georgetown really wants to run this ball early. We hit the 2-minute warning. 3rd and 4, Georgetown on their own 39. On 3rd down, they elect to go to the pass game this time. Vaughn back to pass, looking over the middle, but the linebacker bats it down. Honestly, lucky this wasn't picked. Greg Adams back on to punt again. And finally, Georgetown with a good special teams play. 42-yard punt out of Greg Adams. Mitchell only returns it 3 yards before he is brought down. Michigan will be starting this drive on their own 22. 1 minute 48 left in the half. Duncan back to pass on first down. Nobody's open. Duncan smartly throws it away. 2nd and 10. Duncan back to pass, looking for McCauley, who's wide open. He gets it first down. Gain of 14. McCauley was brought down out of bounds. Seems like Minute Rice wants some time to get his team in control. He uses his 2nd timeout of the half. Next play, Duncan hands out up the middle to Jim Austin, who loses 3. And interestingly, Georgetown uses their last timeout of the half. Seems like they think they're getting this ball back. However, there is a Wolverine uniform down. It is another O-lineman, this time Eric Clayton. 2nd and 13, Duncan back to pass. He's looking deep for Greg Smith, who had the big grab earlier, and he's open again. This is going to be another big game. Smith running, only has the safety to beat, and the safety brings him down after a gain of 30. Michigan now at the Georgetown 37. Next play, Duncan back to pass, looking for Jim Austin up the sideline. He's open. He gets it. He's pushed out of bounds after a gain of 16. 1 minute, 7 seconds left in the half. Basically all the time in the world when you consider Michigan has all 3 timeouts. Next play, they hand it up the middle, loose for Pierce. This is well blocked. Seems like morale on the Georgetown defense is crumbling. Pierce gets 12. Another first down. Next play, they hand it up the middle to Jim Austin. Austin goes into the end zone. That was well blocked. But there are flags. It's going to be holding on Michigan's Jonathan Medina. This one coming back. First and goal now on the 19. Michigan tries the same play again. They run it up the middle with Jim Austin, and it's basically just as successful. Georgetown is getting destroyed by this Michigan O-line. Austin gets 13. Second and goal at the 6. Duncan looks for Greg Smith on a designed short pass. He's tackled after a gain of 3. 25 seconds left in the half, third and goal. Duncan, this is a design QB run. Duncan keeps it himself. This is well blocked. He basically walks in. Touchdown, Michigan. Dixon's extra point up and good. They now lead 24-6. And Dixon's kick is for a touchback. Georgetown on first down. They throw a screen to Terry Adams. He gets a yard, but they are content to let this half end. They need to recollect themselves. At the half, Michigan leads somewhat dominantly 24-6. We are going to have a halftime break here of a couple minutes, and then we will get into the second half. Welcome back, everybody, to the Caesar Superdome as we get back into the second half of the Sugar Bowl. As a reminder, Michigan currently leading 24-6, but Georgetown will get the ball to start the second half. Dixon back on to kickoff. He's yet to have a kickoff that's not a touchback, and that trend continues. Georgetown will be starting on their own 25. First down, Vaughn, short pass to Connor Allen. He catches it, but only for a gain of 4. Second and 6. Vaughn back to pass. He's looking for Connor Allen again, who was open, but this pass basically bounces to him. Very much underthrown. Third and 6 now. Georgetown, they elect to draw. Halfback draw, Bud Simmons, and he is tackled just short of the first down. Gain of 5. On 4th and 1 on their own 34, they elect to punt. Greg Adams back on, and this is best punt yet of the day. 48 yards. Colin Mitchell, though, of course he will return it. He gets 13 before he is finally brought down. Michigan will be starting this drive on their own 31. On first down, Duncan back to passing for Jim Austin on a short route. He only gets 4. Second and 6. Duncan back to pass. Nothing's open. He's trying to make something happen in the backfield. But he is brought down for a big loss of 8. Mike Fuller with the sack for Georgetown. And there is a corner down for Georgetown. That's going to be LeVar Chavez. Third and 14 coming up. Michigan, they elect to just run it with a big lead. They don't want to risk anything deep in their own territory, and they only get 6. On 4th and 8, they elect to punt. Corey Newman, the punter. And this is a booming punt. 69 yards for a touchback. Newman has a huge leg, and he is showing it here. Georgetown will be starting on their own 20. Georgetown, they have loved the run all game, and they go back to it. Jaden Norman up the middle, and this is a good play. Gain of 10, first down. Next play, Vaughn back to pass, looking for Connor Allen, but he is covered, incomplete. 2nd and 10. Vaughn back to pass, looking for Simmons up the middle for a gain of 5. And there is another Georgetown injury. This time it's O-lineman Ronald Toilolo. On 3rd and 5, Vaughn is back to pass, and nothing's open. Vaughn scrambles, tries to make something happen, but he is brought down after a gain of only 1. Michigan's defense suffocating Georgetown. 4th and 4 on their own 36. Greg Adams back to punt. And yet again, another good punt for Greg Adams. He's getting better as this game goes on. Gain of 50. But Colin Mitchell, the electric Michigan returner, will return this, of course. He spins out one guy, runs past another before he's finally brought down after a gain of 24. Michigan will be starting on their own 38. First down, Duncan looking for Greg Smith, but this one incomplete. 2nd and 10. Duncan hands it up the middle, loose for Pierce, but he only gets 4. Another 3rd down coming up. 3rd and 6. Will Duncan back to pass, looking for Eric McCauley deep. He was covered, but this was overthrown anyway. Another punt upcoming on their own 42. Corey Newman back on the field to punt. And we just saw him punt into his own end zone from farther behind. Or punt into the Georgetown end zone, excuse me. This punt's not as good as his last, but still a good one. 47 yards. Michael Nicholson returns it for Georgetown. Solid return of 11. Georgetown will be starting this drive on their own 22. And before the snap, there are whistles. Looks like a flag. Georgetown will be, in fact, starting this drive on their own 17. False start on Kelly Mack. First down. Vaughn back to pass, looking for Terry Adams, who is covered. This one incomplete. 2nd and 15. Vaughn back to pass, looking for Connor Allen. He gets 11. 3rd and 4 coming up. Vaughn back to pass, and he is brought down almost immediately. Kwok Pham of Michigan gets him for a loss of 3. Another punt. And what has been a punt-filled 3rd quarter. Georgetown on their own 25. Greg Adams is back. And it seems like all of his punts now have been about in that 40 to 50-yard range. This one's square in the middle, at 45 yards. But, of course, as we would expect, Colin Mitchell returns it. And it is a great return. Mitchell basically just races past a couple guys before he is brought down. Gain of 24 again. Michigan will be starting this drive on the Georgetown 46. Duncan back to passing it for Sean Wells, but he's covered, incomplete. 2nd and 10. Duncan hands it up the middle to Pierce, who gets 3. 3rd and 7. It's a draw to lose for Pierce, but Georgetown was not ready for a run. Pierce gets the first down, gain of 10. Next play, Duncan, play action. He finds Sean Wells wide open. He gets the first down, 14 yards. Michigan now into the Georgetown red zone. Michigan, handoff. Edie Valdo up the middle. He gets 5. 2nd and 5, they hand it off outside. Lucifer Pierce gets it, and he gets the first down. Gain of 8. 1st and goal up the 6. They hand it off up the middle to Lucifer Pierce, and he gets in unblocked. Touchdown, Michigan. The score is 30-6, and it seems like JT wants blood. He keeps the offense on the field. Ooh. Excuse me. All right. They hand it off on the 2-point conversion to Jim Austin, but he is brought down in the backfield. The conversion fails. 30-6. This one's still technically a 3-possession game as a result of that. However, Georgetown needs a score, and they need it fast. Dixon. This is the first time his kickoff isn't a touchback. He kicks it off to the 3. Michael Nicholson returns at 18 yards. Georgetown will be starting on their own 21. 3 minutes 16 left in the third quarter. First down, Vaughn back to pass. He's looking deep for Terry Adams, who is open. He gets it. Gain of 21, but there are flags. Let's see. This is going to be on Georgetown's Walter Wright for a holding call. First and 20 upcoming. First down, Vaughn back to pass, looking for Connor Allen, but this pass is overthrown over his head. Vaughn has not had his best today. Second and 20. They handed it up the middle to Jaden Norman. Michigan did not expect a run here. They were playing a very safe defense. Norman gets 13. Third and 7 upcoming. Vaughn back to pass, looking for Richard Barber up the middle, but he is covered by a linebacker. This one batted down incomplete. And yet again, Georgetown unable to do much on offense. Greg Adams back onto the field. Adams' punt, 40 yards. Colin Mitchell, of course, he returns this, and he is able to get 17 before he is brought down. Another drive where Michigan will start in Georgetown territory, this time on the 47. 2 minutes, 6 seconds left in the third quarter. Duncan back to pass, looking for Eric McCauley, but he is covered. This one incomplete. Second and 10. Play action. Fake it to Pierce. Georgetown bought it. Donald Sullivan's wide open. He gets it. Gain of 19 before he is tackled by a safety. Next play, they actually hand it off to Pierce up the middle. He gets 3. Second and 7. Duncan looking for Greg Smith on a corner route, and he gets it. Gain of 11. First down on the Georgetown 14. Duncan looking again for Greg Smith in the end zone. Incomplete, however. He was covered. Second and 10. Duncan back to pass. He's looking again in the end zone for Jim Austin on a post route, and Austin was wide open. This is another touchdown for Michigan. They go up 36-6. Dixon's extra point up and good again. 37-6 is the score. 11 seconds left in the third quarter. Dixon kicks it off for a touchback. However, a Michigan player was injured running up the field. Linebacker Larry Smith goes down. This next play will be the last one of the third quarter. Vaughn hands off up the middle to Jaden Norman, who is stuffed after only a gain of 1. As we enter the fourth quarter of play, Michigan leads, and they are dominating, 37-6. Georgetown has the ball, and they need to score fast if they want any chance of coming back in this one. And this is not how you want to start a quarter. Before the snap, there are flags, whistles, false start on Jordan Lousy. Fitting last name there for that play, loss of 5. Second and 14. Second and 14. No, before the snap again, there are flags. It's another false start on Walter Wright. Georgetown keeps on backing up. Vaughn back to pass on second down. Looking at the sideline, this one jumped by Ronnie Stewart. He was wide up. He was all over this. He easily picks this off. He runs it back to the 11 before he's actually pushed out by Aaron Vaughn. However, this is going to be first and goal Michigan at the 10. First play, Duncan looks for Lucifer Pierce on a screen. He only gets 3. Next play, Duncan keeps it on an option. He is brought down just short of the goal line for a gain of 6. Third and 1. Duncan hands it off to Lucifer Pierce up the middle, and he easily gets in. Touchdown, Michigan. Ross Dixon's extra point is up and good. The score now 44-6. This is getting ugly. And I lost my place. All right, Dixon's kickoff, a touchback. What else would you expect? We've seen a lot of kickoffs from him today. Almost all have been touchbacks. Georgetown's offense back on the field. And as the ball is snapped, there are flags that come in. It's going to be on Michigan's Quack Fam for a neutral zone infraction. That said, Aaron Vaughn is pissed. He wanted that to be an offsides. He saw a matchup he liked. First and 5 regardless. Aaron Vaughn hands it up the middle to Bud Simmons. He gets 9. Next play, Georgetown runs it up the middle. Jaden Norman this time, gain of 1, first down. Oh, excuse me. That was first down. 2nd and 9 upcoming. I forgot about the neutral zone. Vaughn back to pass on 2nd and 9. Looking for Terry Adams. He gets 6. 3rd and 3. Georgetown elects to run the ball with Jaden Norman up the middle. He only gets a yard. And there is another Wolverine injury. Jonathan Gaines goes down. 4th and 2 at their own 47. Offense stays on the field. They need to at this point. They hand it off outside. Bud Simmons, and Michigan tackles him at the line of scrimmage. Turnover on downs. Up 38. Michigan gets the ball back. And by commentator decision, we're going to fast forward the rest of the game. A couple Michigan plays there. They actually have a 4th and 1 on Georgetown's 38. They elect to go for it. Coach JT is heartless. They QB sneak it with Duncan. He gets a gain of yard. They get the first down. Henry Smiley, however, gets them for a sack, loss of 10. Next play, Wells gets him for a gain of 11, 3rd and 9. They aren't able to get much on 3rd down, so they punt it for a touchback. On Georgetown's next drive, they are driving a little bit. Rush gain of 5, completed pass to Devin Lamb for 15, completed pass to Terry Adams for 5, but a couple bad plays in a row. They are forced to punt on 4th and long. Greg Adams punts again. Mitchell calls fair catch. Michigan with the ball again. 5 minutes left. They're just running it back. They're just running the clock down at this point. They run it with Lucifer Pierce. Next play is a play action. Coach JT, we know he's heartless. Greg Smith was wide open. Gain of 23. They run it with Lucifer Pierce. He gets 10. False start from Michigan brings it back. 3.5 minutes left. 1st and 15. Michigan tries play action again, but he is hit as he throws. It is picked at the line of scrimmage by Lorenzo Colissimo for Georgetown. They show some dignity with 3 minutes left. They do not want to. They want something else. They scored once in the first quarter. They want to score again. That said, 3 incomplete passes in a row by Aaron Vaughn, and they punt on 4th and 10 around midfield. They are basically waving the white flag at this point. It's a touchback, and Michigan runs down the clock. We don't need to go through the rest of this. Michigan wins in dominant fashion, 44-6, as they punch their ticket to the national title.